The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily the views of ECTV News, the City of East Chicago, nor this broadcast station or website. ECTV airs public meetings as a service to the community it serves. Speakers at public meetings, broadcast, or posted by ECTV News are solely responsible for their comments. ECTV News reserves the right to edit or remove any profanity or abusive language or behavior deemed inappropriate for our viewing audience. If you have any comments or suggestions about this program, contact ECTV News at 219-391-8206.
Scheduled council meeting for Monday, September 25th, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado. Present. Walker.
Present.
Vasquez.
Present.
Garcia.
Present.
Orange. Perez.
Present.
Medina.
Present.
Monroe.
Present.
Franciski.
Present. Madam Clerk, for the record, Councilwoman Orange is out of town on business. I have a motion to accept the minutes for the regular scheduled meeting for Monday, September 11th, 2017.
So moved.
Motion was made by Councilman Perez, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Garcia.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes. Do we have any communications from the mayor?
No.
Any communications from department heads?
Yes. Accounts payable warrant 091217CC.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Walker, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez, to accept accounts payable warrant 091217CC. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Garcia.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Accounts payable warrant 092517BD. So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Maldonado, seconded by Councilman Perez, to accept accounts payable warrant 092517BD. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Garcia.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Accounts payable warrant 092517CC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Monroe, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez, to accept accounts payable warrant 092517CC. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Garcia.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Accounts payable warrant 092517LA. So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to accept accounts payable warrant 092517LA. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez. Yes. Garcia.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Payroll warrant biweekly 090817.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez to accept payroll warrant biweekly 090817. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado? Yes. Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez? Yes. Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Payroll warrant miscellaneous 090817.
So moved, Mr. President. Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe to accept payroll warrant miscellaneous 090817. Have any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado? Yes. Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez? Yes. Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes.
BZA petition 2017-01, variance 1415-1419 West 151st.
Do you have something to speak on?
Good afternoon, Marina Solorio, City Planning and Economic Development Director.
Richard Morrisville, planning consultant, assistant city attorney.
Basically, what you have before you is this property known as 1415-1419 West 151st Street. Has gone through the BZA process to be used as what we would call a 9-unit elderly housing building. It is in an R1A, therefore had to go through this process. R1A only, at the most, legally you can have 2 units or less. And so the petitioner is asking for 9 units, at least this is what the advice from the BZA that was approved on our last meeting on September 11th. I'm going to read you the conditions that I, as a city planner, have put on this property for your advisement. Is number 1, up to 9 units are permitted. The original BZA had for 10 units. I reduced that to 9 because of parking. The permitted tenants are to be elderly, 16-year-old or older, 62-year-old or older. Cannot be any younger. The building and at least 2 units are to be in compliance with American with Disability Act of 1992 and accessibility regulations, meaning it has to be ADA compliant to fit these parameters. A communal space, which is the 10th unit, will be used as a communal space to be provided for that complex. 9 parking places are to be available. An on-site manager, who may also be a resident, is to be provided. And community camera security is to be provided with recordings made available. If anything does happen, police will be able to access those camera files. And then repairs are to be made within the 1-year rehabilitation agreement to be approved by the Planning Department and City Planning Commission. The year begins upon the Planning Commission's approval, not necessarily this council's approval, if approved. So once they get their approval, they then go to the Planning Commission to get approval of the actual project. This one is fairly important because this property has actually gone through the Board of Public Safety and it's up for demo. And I think at the end of this month his time lapses for that action to actually be taken, which is why we are here now. And so those are the conditions I have put on this conditional variance, and it is up to the council to decide whether you would approve it or not. If you have any questions for me, I can answer them.
The building was probably there before the zoning ordinance was enacted. That's why you have a 10 unit in the middle of a block that's almost all single and double unit buildings. It might be demolished. We've demolished some substantial buildings such as the one on Hemlock at the corner of 139th, recently demolished at 42nd and Lagoon. On the other hand, this seems to be a structurally sound building. There is a need for elderly housing. As you know, the Nicosia building is being discussed as to whether or not that will be relocated sometime within the next year or two. And as a result, there were a lot of questions from the BZA members, and they focused on the elderly. They went from a 55-year population to 62, which is the kind of federal state definition of elderly, and it has certain conditions on it. They, for instance, didn't want somebody moving in and having 3 grandchildren with them. It has to be elderly and stay elderly, and it was in that condition that, or that situation that these conditions were put together and appended to the positive vote.
I'm all for the set conditions, but who is gonna make sure they're in compliance? I mean, what happens, once this is going on and a year later, we got something, this and that in there?
It's a very good question. You have, however, your plan commission, your building department, they'll have to go before the plan commission and the technical review committee. There'll be questions asked as to what these improvements are, whether they can be done within the budget proposed. And you may want to ask Mr. Wisniewski, he's here today. He may have answers for some of those questions. And you then have the building department, which both approves both grants the permits and sees that the improvements are made according to the way they've been approved by the plan commission and by the technical review committee.
And what would also be ever so critical is that anybody that's living adjacent to this building, whether it's to the councilman of that area and or any public official, that they advise that, hey, something's going on there, or hey, this is not, or I know of someone that is not a 62-year-old or above that is actually renting there. That is the key to making sure that this person stays compliant, other than our own department that could enforce any of that.
Councilmember
Is
Hart?
this property low income? The
It's not, some of the renters might be subsidized. It's not set aside as low income. It's simply, some of the prospective tenants might be subsidized. They might have Section 8 certificates. However, they would be elderly rather than with large families or of a younger age.
What procedures would you go through as far as filling the building? What is
We would ask Mr. Wisniewski to discuss that, because he would be the landlord, as to what kind of protections he would put in for that. You may want him to speak after
Yes,
he's
sure,
spoken, or
yes,
even now.
yes.
Mr. Wisniewski?
Tom Wisniewski, Apple Real Estate. I live at 4730 Ivy. And to answer your question about our compliance, is 62 and older. And probably some things that we put into code enforcement with rental registration. I think there will be a separate utility building, except we will have central heat and central hot water. Anyone trying to get a utility inspection at that building, maybe they have it marked in their computer to make sure that the person's 62 and over with an ID. We are going to have 1 bedrooms and some studios. I don't envision 2 people living in a studio. My vision is 62 and over, someone single, but there are going to be several 1 bedrooms. It could be an elderly couple. The 1 bedrooms, I think, would qualify due to the square footage to be subsidized through Section 8, and it seems like there's been a lot of people, like even the woman at the BZA meeting spoke, I think she was in charge of Nicosia, I don't really call her name, but it seems like we have a lot of people looking to stay inside of town and to have the subsidized housing. But our intent is to keep it fully 62 and over, and you catch me, find me. I don't know how else to put a rule in. You want to tell the neighbors, I'm okay with it. We're here to get along.
Councilman Garcia?
You answered one of the questions already, but this is from Raymond. Did this building get inspected by the fire department?
That I know of, it has, but irregardless of that, when it goes through tech review, it will have to be inspected by all departments that are part of that process, which includes health, fire, public safety, building, etc. I do want to clarify that when he mentions if you catch him, that's a revocation of this variance, automatic, meaning if they do not comply with any of these, they could terminate the variance for that apartment.
Councilwoman Vasquez?
I'm all in favor of, for additional senior living. Some of the problems we have, like you say, if there's a problem in the building, call your councilman, call code enforcement. But other buildings that this council has approved, some of them have property managers on site, part-time. Some of them don't. But I would strongly say that you should enforce that you have a property manager on site, because if there's a problem in the building, that person can answer that problem 24/7. Because with some of the other senior living buildings, the property manager is not there, and sometimes they wait days before a problem is addressed. And I'm in favor, if there's a problem, you can call the police department, I mean, or whatever, but I do think that you should really consider having a property manager on site.
Well, that is one of the conditions here. I mean, that's our intent, and then it also has the camera with security, with recording capability. So if there a problem should arise, we should have on video and record it and put it on.
So condition number 6 does state that he has to have an on-site manager who may be a resident of that complex, but it is to be provided by Mr. Rosinski here.
Yes, backed up with a security camera with recording capabilities. Could have about 62.
Any other questions? Councilman Medina?
The on-site manager be required to be 62 years old?
In my eyes, yes.
Anyone in that facility has to be 62 years old.
Even if he's the on-site manager?
Correct.
I do have somebody in mind that his wife is 54, but to get a different wife or a different manager.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You pull down on the resolution himself.
We sure do. Thank you. We'll get to that.
Just find it in. Just check.
Deputy Committee reports. Councilwoman Maldonado.
Mr. President, I do, as chair of the standing committee, I do have an ordinance to present to this council to ask to put it on the agenda. However, before I do that, I ask for my colleagues to look at the actual ordinance in question, 17-0028. It's turn to page 2 of 8. There was a clerical error where it reads the patrolman first class pension rate, that the number should be the same as a master police officer, so that would be 203242. So if we can cross that number out, please replace it with 203242. Mr. President, as chairman of the committee, we've had several meetings. I'd like to thank my colleagues for attending those meetings. I'd like to thank the police department, fire department, our consultants. We've spent a significant amount of time on this. I met with the mayor. We've had executive sessions, several meetings with police and fire. And at this time, I'd like to motion to add this ordinance, 17-0028, an amending ordinance fixing the salaries of police and fire personnel in the city of Chicago, Indiana for the year 2017, amending ordinance number 17-0017.
Second, Mr. President.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Maldonado, seconded by Robert Garcia, to add ordinance 17-0028 on the agenda. To amend 17-0017. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Will this motion be retroactive back to January?
This is, Councilman, this is just to add on to the agenda. We'll discuss that.
Okay.
But it answers yes.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker? Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes. Moving on to board reports. Any board reports? Commissioner Rodriguez.
Good evening. Ken Rodriguez, Council appointed to Chicago Water Management District. Couple things. Dredging supposed to start this month. It's anticipated to start this month. I know it's the last week of the month, but that's on the contractors. But when they start dredging, they anticipate to dredge about 200,000 cubic yards of sediment out of the canal. Okay, the EPA has reviewed, finished their review of the districts, the Chicago Water Management District's partnership with ARCO and BP to remediate part of the Lake George Canal. That's the canal that runs east and west past the dump site, or the CDF. The EPA has given the district a go-ahead to begin to negotiate the project agreement, so we don't know what it's going to involve right now. But we're going to start looking to start cleaning up the rest of the canal, which is our responsibility. Also, the EPA and IDEM have not given the Army Corps of Engineers the approval of the task permit application to dispose of PCB's material in the CDF. However, IDEM and EPA submitted a press release, which is article in the paper last week, this one here, last week to agree to investigate the feasibility of an off-site disposal option. If the off-site disposal option is feasible, as anticipated, the dredging and construction will be done in 2018. Okay, and as a reminder, the district submitted public comment and a resolution to the EPA and IDEM to seek alternative options. Also, Mayor Copeland urged the IDEM and EPA to find an alternative solution. This council also passed a resolution to explore other options, and the community groups strong opposition to disposing the PCB material in the CDF. So hopefully, since they're going to go ahead and look for another option, we hope, all of us do, that they will go ahead and dispose of it off-site. That's what I have.
Any questions for Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, just want to thank you, Henry. I know you've been working on this. We passed a resolution, and I think as long as we stay together and continue on the same road, we could try to conquer anything that comes down before our way. So thank you, and thank this council for that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Judge. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on first reading?
Yes. Ordinance 17-0023, ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rate, sanitary district.
First reading.
Excuse me?
To read on first reading.
Want to make a motion?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado, to hear ordinance 17-0023 on first reading. Do you have any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
This year's anybody from the mayor's office on this?
Could I speak on your behalf?
Steve Dalton.
Steve Dalton, financial advisor to the council. There is nobody here from the mayor's office or the controller's office this evening. I was alerted to that fact over a week ago. You'll recall last year we asked for a longer period of time to go over the budgets. They have reacted by giving us the budget in advance of the schedule of public hearings. The public hearing will be in 2 weeks, on October 9th, and the adoption 2 weeks after that. So this is a whole week, 2 weeks earlier than that jam that we got in last year. This was kind of our request. So they will be present for any committee meeting that is called between now and October 9th, and they will be present, according to Val, the controller, on October 9th for the public hearing. They did apologize, they had previously scheduled events this evening.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, President. Thank you, Steve. Do yeoman's work, but this is something that has been presented by the mayor's office. They needed to send a representative here, not you, You're our financial consultant, and I wish we shouldn't pass this today, because this continuous, not sending somebody up here to talk to us, reference this. I got many questions on this, and you're not the guy for me to ask the questions to Steve, with all due respect. So,
Allow me to react quickly. You could also read this on first and second on October 9th, after we've had our committee meeting and you've taken budget under advisement. So the calendar is not nearly as pitched as it was last time.
and those questions, I make a secondary motion, not to hear.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado to take off ordinance 17-0023. Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
No.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes. Madam Clerk, next ordinance please.
Ordinance 17-0025, ordinance or resolution for appropriation and tax rates, Civil City.
Motion to hear on first reading, Mr. President.
I have a second. No motion. The ordinance fails. Madam Clerk, next ordinance.
Ordinance 17-0026, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. Salary ordinance for appointed officers and employees of the City of East Chicago.
So move on first reading, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe to hear ordinance 17-0026 on first reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Anybody here to speak on this?
Good evening. Sandra Favela, Chief of Staff, the Mayor's Office. I'm presenting in front of you the salary ordinance for all civilian employees, as well as public employees. There has been a few changes. If you'd like to go through them now, or how would you choose? You can look at page 2. On page 2, where it reads exempt employees, we removed some of the language because they did not pass the state federal law indicating exempt employees. So we modified that language to fit what's currently going on. Page 3. The Chief of Staff, the low range has been decreased. The Inspector, the low range has been decreased. Where it reads Fire, Police, Health, various departments has been added. It's down below. And also, we increased the amount to $1,353.85.
Councilman Garcia?
Sam, can you say that again? But you said fire, please.
Where it reads Fire, Police, Health, various departments, maintenance, equipment tech.
Why is that listed like that?
Pardon?
Why is that listed like that? That's so confusing.
We had a maintenance person that's non-union. So we first had it at the fire department, which is one person there. Then we had currently another person that is non-union at the police department. And we also have one at the health department that is non-union. And we noted in our various departments, just in case we do hire any other non-union positions.
Councilwoman Vasquez?
Sandra, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat the first three that you mentioned?
On page 3 of 11, the Chief of Staff, the low range has decreased. The inspector, the low range, has decreased. And then the fire, police, health, we just added various departments, and the low range has increased. I'm sorry, the high range has increased. Also, if you look at the last column, where you see non-exempt and exempt, that's new. We never had that in the ordinance. We identified each position to whether it's non-exempt or exempt.
You on page 2, Sam?
Yes, page 3. See page 2. You can see the column, the last column where it reads exempt or non-exempt. We added that in. Moving along to page 6 of 11. On page 6, if you can recall last year, or this year in April, Mayor Copeland, he increased part-time or any employee that minimum wage to $12. So the previous ordinance that we had was $11, so we increased the low range to $12. And then we increased the high range to $13. But for the laborers, we increased it to $13.50.
Councilmember Rossi?
So the part-time laborers are getting $13.50.
No, they're getting 12. And that's all the changes that were made.
Councilmember Rossi?
So you mentioned paragraph about exempt employees.
Yeah.
Was the city in violation prior to this reference to exempt employees?
We were actually preparing ourselves for the law that was going to be passed in December, but it didn't get passed. So we removed that language.
Also, on the inspector, you said they're on a lower range. So did some people lose pay on this?
It all depends. They did go, some of the inspectors went through a course. They went to South Suburban College, and one of the things that they had to do is make sure that they passed the course, and if they didn't, the pay got decreased.
What course is that?
It's a building, I believe it was a building inspector.
Is that in the handbook?
No,
How can we hold them accountable to the handbook and that's not in the handbook?
that's an internal department decision. They wanted to have all of the inspectors to be mastering this class.
What specifications are they learning or they have to master?
I don't have that information. I can get that to you.
So we're going to be lowering some people's pay for this.
Pardon?
We're going to be lowering some people's pay for
No,
this ordinance.
it's been done.
You guys lowered it already. How can you guys do that already since we haven't passed this?
As far as the pay, by an executive order by the mayor. Did you want to have that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call to adopt ordinance 17-0026 on first reading.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
No.
Monroe.
No.
Franciski.
Yes. Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 17-0027, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland, an ordinance fixing salaries of elected officials of the city of East Chicago, Indiana, for the year 2018.
Motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion we adopt this on first and second reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez. to hear ordinance 17-0027 on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes. Madam Clerk, next ordinance.
Ordinance 170028, and amending ordinance fixing the salaries of police and fire personnel of the city of East Chicago, Indiana for the year 2017, amending ordinance numbers 17-0017.
So moving for second reading, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado, to hear ordinance 17-0028. It's amended version on first and second reading. Do you have any questions on the motion? Councilman
I
Garcia.
just want to thank Councilwoman Maldonado on her hard job on this. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy with this council trying to get this straightened out. I want to thank both unions, the FOP and the fire department. It's just something that we need to get done and also get done on the fire side in the future. But I want to thank everybody for a good job.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Maldonado.
I'd ask our consultant, Mr. Dalton, who worked very hard on it, to step up for you. You can kind of go over some of the changes.
Council, you'll recall that in December of 2016, the Board of Safety passed a salary ordinance for police and fire, as they had in many years past. You, 2 months ago, amended that salary ordinance for police and fire with some requests made at the request specifically of the police chief. And we found later that there was some inconsistencies in that ordinance. Some of the numbers were difficult to tie out. Some of the numbers didn't add up to the same things that we thought would be added into the pay of master police officers. There was various meetings called by the special committee. Executive session was called. There was meetings with the mayors, as Councilman Maldonado mentioned. I'll point out a couple of the changes, and you're welcome to grill me on how we got to the numbers. But if you look at the chart on page 2, if you notice page 2 of 9, most of the changes are in the chart because they're pay related. There's no change to the chief of police. Each of the supervising titles, deputy chief, commander, lieutenant, and sergeant, have been increased by $80.77, which would be the amount remaining from those 3 tranches of income that are being combined into their salary. They've already received a portion of each of those 3 tranches of income. So this is the amount remaining that they would have still received this year. The next line item to call your attention to is master police officer, which is being added from its original number, $142.31, which is the amount remaining from the 3 tranches of income. And those officers have received none of those dollars. So it's a higher amount because they've received less of those same 3 tranches of income. You already made the amendment to the next line, which is patrolman first class to match the master police officer. So those 2 numbers would match $2,032.42. There have been, Mr. Bauer assisted me in the last few days revising the paragraphs that deal specifically with the clothing allowance and the holiday pay. So that they specifically say that nothing's being taken away from any of the officers, but they're now having those dollars built into their salary as opposed to being written as separate checks. And I guess the big item to point out is that the ordinance is dated January 1st and is intended, I believe, by this council to be retroactive to January 1st with remuneration due to many, if not all, of the officers on this list. The officers who've been hired after January of 2011 under the title Master Police Officer also have been adjusted to that same number, $2,032.42. I will be happy to take questions, but if they get highly legal, then you're going to be talking to your attorney.
Any questions?
Thank you, Steve.
I didn't receive that copy. If I can take a look at it for a moment, please. I noticed this ordinance, at the top it says sponsored by Mayor Anthony Copeland. Those figures that were read right now were not presented by the mayor. Well, it's provided through an email to Vivian is not what was given to you.
Steve?
Yes, that's true. The council still has the right. This is an amendment of 17-0017, which was in fact submitted by the mayor. So what the council is doing is accepting what was tendered by the mayor. You originally passed, now you're amending it. So I don't see a major problem with that.
Councilman Medina?
Mr. President, you can simply change that with sponsor, Councilman Rich Medina.
Yes, sir. You add my name to it, too.
I have another question. I noticed that the pension rate has been reduced. What was the reason for that?
Shall I answer, sir? It's directed to match the pension rank to the master police officer pay. So the two would be the same. 203, 240 should be exactly the same.
Just so I can give the record, the mayor was proposing the pension rate to be $2,097.80. Now the council would like it for $2,032.42 to match up master patrol officer. That's right. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Medina?
Did we ever figure out where these last minute numbers came from?
Steve?
When the longevity was wiped out, there were some new numbers inserted. They never added up to the three categories that were being eliminated and combined.
No, they did not add it to the same number. So we don't know where that number came from.
Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, Mr. President, you know what, we've been in a couple of meetings. We was in a meeting last Wednesday with the patrol's office. They was with us, Senator was there also. But we asked them questions on how did they get the number. They couldn't even tell us. Matter of fact, their response was, we don't know who did this, which was unacceptable to us because controllers, coming out of the controller's office and coming out of that mayor's office, they're responsible for that ordinance they wrote. We asked them questions, reference how did they get to that number. We could not get an answer. Not one answer.
Consent.
I just want to be on the record. As I mentioned to you at the meeting executive session, this was brought to me in my attention when Myrna gave me the ordinance on the day that I presented this. So I wasn't part of this whole thing, nor was Rob Johnson, nor Val Gomez. I understand that we didn't have all that information because we weren't part of that negotiation at the time. We were working and trying to make things right with the council, but bringing this to us today, unexpectedly, we had no idea, I had no idea. And just brought me surprise where what we submitted in the mayor is not what is being presented to you today.
Councilwoman Maldonado?
Sandra, and in all due respect, the issue here is not that we would not like it to be $2,097.80. It's just that we couldn't figure out. And from the sounds of it, all those that were at the executive session that should have had an answer to that whether they were in negotiations there or not, could have checked back with the mayor or whomever it was, did not have that answer. So we rely on our financial consultant, his word. He worked the numbers tirelessly over the weekend, trying to figure out how you all came to 2,097.80, and we could not figure that out. So there's no way we could have presented that number here today. We would have liked to, but we couldn't. It wouldn't be right, and so that's why the number is what it is.
What happened is that 3,700 was added on to their base, and then they divided all of that number figure to 24, it should have been 26.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, going back to that Wednesday meeting, and it was our intention just to make those amendments, and the mayor's office, controller's office knew that. We go, Myrna meets the mayor Friday, discussion of this. We get blindsided with a new ordinance that you presented to us, which was just totally out of line. And to come here and say we blindsided you with this, no, that's not right. You know, you tried to blindside us with that new ordinance, which was totally out of character. You know what? Our intention was to fix this, and it hasn't been upfront. We have talked about it. We had meetings on it. So we've been upfront with this, and everybody knew what our intention was, and we got it done.
I see what you're saying, Councilman Garcia, but there was no intent to pass that ordinance until we had a mutual agreement with the council that Wednesday.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go ahead and vote on this.
Make sure that it's not sponsored by Mayor Anthony Copeland.
Mr. President, can you please add my name to that ordinance as well?
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker? Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Francisci?
Yes.
So move to suspend the rules, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado. Suspend the rules and hear ordinance 17-0028 on third reading. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Francisci?
Yes.
So move in third and final reading, Mr. President.
Second, Mr. President.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado. To hear ordinance 17-0028 on third and final reading. Have any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Francisci?
Yes. Have any ordinances on second reading?
No.
Madam Clerk, any ordinances on third reading?
No.
Do we have any resolutions?
Yes. Resolution 17-0006, sponsor Councilman Lenny Francisci. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago concerning a petition for use variance to allow property located at 1415-1419 West 151st Street to be used as a 9-unit elderly housing building.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Garcia. We can turn that around. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Marshall?
Just ask that the conditions be attached to the resolution, that if they're not attached, they won't be effective, and I think they're very important in conveying the mind of some of the questions you had asked, and also the questions that were asked by the BZA.
Councilman Garcia?
So move to put the conditions onto the resolution.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Walker. They have the conditions, the resolution filed in. Any questions? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes, resolution passes. Moving on to old business. Do we have any old business? Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, Mr. President, I think Councilman Monroe asked last time, so we have an executive meeting reference on budget. Just I'd like to say where's that at, and also I'd like to have an executive session to discuss some council business that I think we need to address.
I can answer the first one, I'll answer it on the business, though. Is there any other old business? Moving on to new business, I did get a text in earlier from the finance officer, Councilwoman Orange. She's requesting a finance committee meeting Thursday, September 28th at 5 o'clock here in the chambers. So Madam Clerk, if you could please write that down and put that, send that out, please. And I will be in touch with you for the executive session as well. That's Thursday, September 28th at 5 o'clock. We have any other new business? Councilman Medina?
Lee, can you send a letter on my behalf to the law department? I'd like to get a copy of any and or all lease agreements that are made between the city of Chicago and ArcelorMittal. There's a lot of parcels around the marina that we've been sharing. I'd like to get a copy of those lease agreements.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, I just wanted to ask Ms. Maldonado if she's able to do a letter to Congressman Miskowski. She's very well versed, but the letter to Congressman Miskowski is a support letter. Puerto Rico has been devastated by this hurricane, and it's been very slow moving of help on Puerto Rico. And I think a letter from this council to the Congressman Miskowski trying to get some help for Puerto Rico. Another thing, Mr. President, is that I'd like to get a letter sent to the manager of the filtration plant. I understand a week before last, I guess there was an event at the lakefront, and they used the land at the filtration plant as parking. As you know, the old filtration plant is still producing water that hasn't been doing too much. But that's supposed to be a secure facility. Nobody should have been parking on it. I think it was an outside vendor that, or something like that, but they used that property and then it was charging everybody $25 for parking, which I think that's another, should be another violation. But if you send somebody like here, find out, give me some information on that. But that should be a secure facility. It should have never been used for parking. They should have never used that property for profit from an outside organization. So that's what I got.
Any other new business? Moving on to public expression. If you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, do we have any?
No.
Have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilwoman Monroe. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado? Yes. Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes, good night.